In this video, we're going to learn how to get a solution set to a system of linear equations algebraically, and we're going to start by using the elimination method.
In the elimination method, we're basically going to grab one variable and eliminate it completely, which leaves us with just the other variable to solve for, and that's a lot easier. We have the system right here, and what I notice immediately, and what I'm looking for when I'm doing the elimination method, is I am looking for a variable that has the same degree, but also has the same coefficient. And so in this case, I notice that my y's have the same degree and the same coefficient. And what I also notice is that one is a positive and one has a negative coefficient. And that is the third thing that you are looking for the elimination method to be effective. And so for this particular example, I noticed that I have a negative 1y and a positive 1y here. And so this would be a great candidate for elimination. Sometimes you don't have a situation where that happens and you have to create that situation. And we'll talk about that when we get there. But for this particular one, it works just fine. So we're going to line them up together. And we're going to line them up as if we were going to be adding them. So I don't have anything to add with my x here, so I'm just going to bring this x down. But because I have a positive y and a negative 1y, that cancels out, and I go ahead and eliminate the y. And then I can go ahead and add my like terms together. I can't add the 2x with the 7 because they're not like terms. So I'm just going to bring the 2x down, but I am able to add the 7 plus the 1, which brings me to 8. And then what I want to do is I want to solve for x. So I'm going to go ahead and I got my first value. Then what I want to do is I want to go back to my original equation and solve for y. Now when you go back to your original equation, you don't have to solve for y for every single equation. You can just pick the one that might be the easiest. In this case, we already have here an equation that is set up to be solved for y. We can just use that one. Instead of the x, we're just going to replace that by a negative 8. And that is our solution set. Now let's look at this other example. We're going to use elimination, and remember, we're looking for these three things. We're looking for the same coefficient, make sure that our variables have the same degree and whatever variable we decide to eliminate, and we also want them to have the opposite signs in their coefficients. So I noticed some similarities right away. I noticed that I have a y and a y that both have the same coefficient and to the same degree. So that would be an easy one for me to begin with. But I do notice that they do not have opposite signs in the coefficients. They're both positive. And in order for something to be eliminated, you have to subtract it. So I need a negative sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this entire equation by a negative 1. When I do that, I'm going to now have a negative y, and that is going to give me the opposite sign in the coefficient that I need. But what you have to remember as you do this, and this is a common mistake, is you also have to distribute this negative y across all terms. So this all of a sudden is going to be negative 1/2 times negative 1, which is going to give you a positive 1/2 x. And this is going to end up being a negative 8. So it is going to change the rest of your equation as well. So with this, now I can go ahead and start eliminating. I'm going to eliminate my y, and when I do that, I end up with a 0 on this side. And then I can go ahead and add my variables. In this case, I have two like terms, 1/2 and 4, so I can do 4.5. You can convert this to a decimal if you'd like, or you can keep it as a fraction and do 4.5. And then I can go ahead and solve for x. Okay, once we're done with that, we can go ahead and solve for y. And for this, I'm going to use this equation because it doesn't have fractions and it's just easier for me. In this case, y equals 7.